with Ged Brannan.
Oh, cheers.
And some conversations with the manager. We're also delighted to welcome Fitzy with him tonight, our first team coach. He's a bit shy, so give him a nice big warm welcome when we do speak. So elsewhere on our, I was going to say normally top table, but on our floor tonight, obviously got Rod Taylor. Ben Sadler, Chief Executive. Howse. And of course, James Wakefield. So thank you, right? So, we'll kick off. Ged, little conversation. Just, basically, we'll kick off. How's things gone for you so far?
Well, starts off with a lot of ups and downs, to be fair. Starting with actually in the league, we don't want to talk about that. But since then, we've come on usually around, I think. Fitzgerald and I, we signed on players, which was good for us when we got fifth year. Then when we lost all the boys in the first place, all the lads got long players and really tough. But we got results back and we started playing well. And we turned things around. So at the minute, I'm quite happy with the run we've been on. Hopefully we can get good results tomorrow. But we're really good anyway, so it's really good.
How are you enjoying life as a manager? That's one of the first questions.
I've gone great. No, I feel a lot to go with, to be honest. I had a great backing off the board and Ben, feeling really close to Ben. Didn't miss. No, obviously John McMahon, when he got sick and I was on loan, who coaching and from more or less had a big pass to open out. It was really tough then, but when we got Fitzy in and things have turned around and it was going where we wanted to go, didn't it?
Just checking, does it sound okay for everybody? No, is it? Martin, is there something?
That's Mark as well.
Do you want to use that other mic, Martin?
One, two.
That's better. Is that better? Okay. So obviously, Ged, you played here, member of the team that got promotion to the Football League. What are your memories of Morecambe Football Club from those days?
It was great. I still played for Morecambe. I was coming to the end of my career at the time. We had a great changing room like we have now, to be honest, very similar. But a good football team as well. So everything was good. Great manager, Sammy Wakefield was fantastic. And to go on to finish my career at Morecambe and we're at Wembley, it's fantastic. Couldn't ask for anything else.
Talking to people like Sammy, as a manager yourself, your first time role, do you model yourself on any of the managers that you've played under, and if so, which one particularly?
It's a tough one that. I've had that many managers in my career, to be honest. I've had good and bad ones, so I've really tried to take the good things out of some managers and obviously try not to do with the bad managers, surely. So mostly Johnny King really at Tranmere Rovers in the days when I come through from a 16-year-old right through. He brought me through, gave me a chance, and he was a great man-to-man manager, so he used to put us on our players to get you playing the best for him. I think that's what I try to do to us.
I've known you all the time, and positivity is what you really preach, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a very positive person. As a player, it was the same, and I go in every day, train. Like tomorrow's game, I'm really positive about that. Whatever happens, but we go out, don't we? Showing the lads, I think if you're positive around them, it rubs off on them, and it gives them a positive attitude, so I think that's the best way to be honest.
Looking forward, what's your vision for your teams as Morecambe manager? And have you got your sights already set on people for next season?
We have spoke about a few players, yeah, that we're going to try and bring in, but we're going to have to see what happens with the squad we've got at the minute first. Obviously, it's going to be tough keeping some of them because, as we all know, there's a lot of good players in the team, and if we lose them, we've got to obviously replace them with the same calibre of player, and we'll try and do that at the minute. But when I first took the job and I done the interview and they asked me what I expected, I said the playoffs. Yeah, and I really believe in that. I really believe the squad that we've got is capable of pushing on to get in the playoffs.
you have a style of play that you're looking to play and looking at players who you think now will fit into that style maybe for next season?
Well, I think you've seen over the last, 4 months that I've been in charge, gradually we're starting to change the way we're playing, and I still like to get forward really quick, but I like to win the ball back in the opposition's half, but I like to pass the ball. And you can see even against Walsall on Tuesday, we passed the ball really well, and we got a lot of chances, but we just had no one to put the ball in the back of the net. So I think we're going the right way, and I think if we keep going and to keep listening to what we're trying to show them every day, we'll be okay.
Fitzy, can I pass it on to you? How do you link in with Ged on a day-to-day basis? What's your main role?
Well, we have the group meeting every morning, so it's what I will say is the gaffer brings us all in, we're all involved, so from Bass, for all the group come together every morning, and we look at what lads are ready to train, and then we obviously the day before or the week before we've got a bit of a plan for that week with what opposition are coming up against us and what we've got over the sort of next 7 days. So, but what we keep saying is we take it each game. So we look at the opposition we're going to play in the next game, and then we build from that. And then obviously come in, discuss what sort of time of session we're going to do with the players and what we need for that week, basically.
One for both of you now, really. It's about the academy. You both got great experience working with young players. Adam May, we recently sold to Millwall for a nice amount of money. Had Carlos Mendes-Gomez in the past, Aaron McGowan. How important do you think the academy is to this club going forward?
It's obviously from my personal background and where we want to be. We've had discussions with the board and with Wayne and Stu. They've been here obviously a long time and they know what they're trying to bring through, but it's important, as we do every day. There's a lot of lads, the young lads training with us every day. We want to make sure they're involved. Wayne is involved, Ollie, 18's coach, they're involved with us. Wayne will be around tomorrow, so he'll be actively involved, and we're trying to make sure that some of the players are definitely coming through and getting understanding of what we want. Every day, like today, we have 4 lads training with us, so it's massive for the club moving forward that we produce players from within. It's something definitely we want to do, because the 2 or 3 things that we're looking for is, 1, can they play for the first team? 2, can we move them on at a good price that helps us build players in the future? Then that attracts better players at a younger age, and also attracts players coming in because they know there's a pathway for the club. So, like I say, on our personal point of view, I know we're on the same page with this, it is a massive thing that we want to produce players from within. And there's certain demands that come with that, with that has been put on the academy and the recruitment staff for that.
Is there a blueprint for the future? Obviously, we all looked at Crewe for a few years ago, 11 first team squad members all came to the academy one day. Is that still possible these days, or is that always a goal to try and achieve?
It's very hard to bring 11 players through at one time. So realistically, you're not going to have that. What you've got to do is build it over years, and I suppose that's where the club, the board, that's their product, and we're just people who are coming in to support that, and that should continue whether we're here in the future or whether things change. But the club should still develop that, because you still want, if you can get to that stage where clubs are producing players within on a regular basis and bringing in funds and doing that's got to be the blueprint. It's, no matter what you look at the big clubs in the world, no matter what they have a blueprint of academy players, you look at Chelsea, you look at Man City, you look at Man United. Their stalwarts in Liverpool, because they'll be upset with me otherwise. They bring academy products through. Now, whether they play the first team or they're sold on to benefit the club, that is something that you've got to do. And clubs like ourselves, we've got to reduce players from the bit to help develop over the time.
James, back to you a second. Looking at, I think you mentioned Liverpool there, the loan system. I mean, last year Quansah played against us for Bristol Rovers, Bradley played against us for Bolton. How important is it that we can get players that, like the clubs like Liverpool, to get them the experience in League Two?
It's very important. We've got a lot of connections in football now between all the staff and all the big fitzy bars and that, so we can reach out to people to get us good players in, and we have this year, we've got obviously Bolton, we've brought Nelson in, who's going to be a fantastic player for us for the rest of the season. We've got a good connection now with Notts Forest, so I think you have to make connections with all these clubs for us to survive, because obviously we need our own players, or our 5 loan players every year, and we need to make sure that they're the right fit for this club, and that they're very, very good players. And I think all the players that were brought in, and that we had at the beginning of the season, have all done very well for the club.
Can I just pass you to Ben for a second? So Ben, just talking about relationships with other clubs, and yourself and Rodney Graham maybe answer this as well. How important is it that Morecambe is seen as a club that players would happily loan their players to and happily work with us in the future?
Yes, I think that's been a huge part, certainly in my time here, which is nearly 3 years now. It's been a huge part of what we've done. You've only got to look at the loan players we've got in League One and where they've gone on to, including last year, where we had some cracking young lads in. But what we can do, and what Derek did and what Jed's doing now, is evidence that we can give them good quality game time in the Football League. How many times do you see players from under 23s at these big clubs go out on loan and end up playing 2 games and not getting a look in after that, and then they're stuck there for 6 months, not developing, frustrated, and that loan club isn't going to send someone back out there. We looked at the minutes played by our loan players last year and this year, and if you look at the 4 or 5 you'll have in at any time, we usually have 4 of them starting a game. So it's really important that we have these links, because we have got one of the smallest budgets in the league, we all know that, and this is something we can take advantage of to help our performance week to week, because winning football matches is what counts. But by being able to put these players on the pitch, and we pick good ones, we've got some talented young lads who come through. It's not just anyone who we get given. By getting them on the pitch and getting them really quality development time and opportunities, them clubs and others look at us and are now looking at us more, going, if we could send our players to anywhere in League Two, why wouldn't we send them to Morecambe? They get a real grounding, they get a real opportunity, and I think that's all they look for, these top clubs, is getting players a bit of a grounding and minutes in open age football. So yeah, it's been a big part of what we've been about, and it's going to be a big part of what we're going to be about as we move forwards, and it's it's something that works brilliant for us, brilliant for the loan club, the parent club should I say. We want to mix that in with some of our own homegrown talent, as Fitzy was talking about there, which again we've started to do. We've had some real good players come through. There's players training all the time with the first team, and I think we'll expect to see some of them on the pitch in the coming months and seasons, because there's been a lot of hard work done in the academy to get to this point and get players ready to put in front of these lads there and say they're good enough to be around you. It's just that mix between the senior players, the loan players, and can we blood a few of our own through.
I just want to add on that this season the recruitment's been exceptional with loan players, with all players, particularly at the start of the season and with the transfer window. Whether it was Derek or Jed, we have done exceptionally well, I think, and we knew going into the window in January that these 5 players were going to go, so there was plans in place to make sure that we had the right calibre of players coming through. But the relationship that we have with other football clubs extends beyond the football players. It's about the other stuff that goes on in football clubs. I've been speaking to Birmingham, Wimbledon, Burnley in recent weeks on financial issues that we all help each other out on. So it's not just the playing side, it's the admin side, it's the marketing side. It's important for us that we have these connections, and it helps us grow and improve, and they learn a few things of us sometimes as well.
Final one for Jed for the time being. It's probably been a bit of a baptism of fire for you, to be honest, Jed. Bear in mind you've only been here a few months, the things have happened while you've been in charge. How's it been, and how hard has it been for you as an individual? And I mentioned before, you enjoying it. And sort of linking to what's the difference between being a player and being a manager? Did you ever think it was this wide, the difference?
It's totally different. Being a player, obviously you can affect the game once you're on the once across the white line. As a manager, you do all your work off in the training all week and in the change room before the game, and then once you cross that white line, you can't do nothing. And it's really, really hard to watch football matches knowing you can't affect the game. So it's totally different from being a player. It's totally. I just think being a player, it's great when you're on the pitch, because obviously you're playing for a club like Morecambe and you're going around, and then you're watching the game as a manager, and you just can't affect it. I think it's really, really tough.
More general questions after. So Rod, just a quick one for you first, and we can pass this down the line. How do you review the season as a whole so far?
Quinny, it's been an interesting season, I've got to say. Setting off with Derek Adams in charge, and as Graham said, recruitment was, I think, decent at the time. We started that season, the preparation with maybe 6 players. A lot of players had left us. That was very difficult, and the majority of that was on budgetary issues, really, which altered within, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks. That budget altered massively. The owner pledged to improve that playing budget, and we could recruit better than we thought was possible. I think Ged coming in here has given us a new impetus and energy together with Fitz, and that's, for me, that's palpable. It has been a breath of fresh air. I would never knock Derek. I think Derek Adams did a fabulous job at Morecambe Football Club, but now we've got to look forward, and these guys are doing the business. You know, the style of football, I feel, has been absolutely excellent. People can criticise, people get on social media. What used to happen in the pub on a Saturday night and a Sunday lunchtime is now all over social media on a Saturday night after a few beers. And that is really, I find that really frustrating, because it isn't fair. It certainly isn't fair. I saw a couple of comments after the Walsall game on Tuesday, and for me, they were out of order. I'll be totally honest, they were out of order. I don't think we played particularly badly. 2 early goals, 2 early goals. I always felt, I said this to Jen on Sunday, I always felt at Walsall that we would win that game. I really thought we'd score and we'd win that game. And then to concede the third, which was a blatant issue that the officials didn't see, killed it. But the football itself, I'm not, I wouldn't be hypercritical of it. I think we've had some great highs. We've got a really good foundation to build on, and I'm confident that these guys will do the job.
Ben?
Season so far, yeah, like Rod says, it's been, we've had a lot thrown at us on the pitch, off the pitch, and we've dealt with it. And you know, it doesn't mean it's not there, but look at where we are. We have got one of the smallest budgets in the league, and I'm not going to keep saying that all night, but that's a fact where we're at, you know, as a football club, and the budget's still 50% higher than it was last time we were in League Two. So that shows you how far football's moved on. It's scary, the finances and the spiral that the money at the top's led to. But everyone's just got on with it, and we are a point off at playoffs. And we've got a team that are talented, that are playing good football, they're passing the ball. We've had some brilliant wins. we've had some defeats and some games where we haven't played well. You know, but that's going to happen. We've got a younger squad, and the consistency levels to get there every week, you know, is really, really tough. It's going to be a little bit like that, but over the season we've progressed through really nicely. So, you know, really pleased, like really, really pleased with where we are in the table. When you look at some of the money and the stability of clubs below us, we are outperforming them. And I just look at it now and I go, look, we had a brilliant management team in before, we did. They've done some fantastic things for the football club, but that changed, you know, they left. We've now got a fantastic management team who want to put their own stamp on it with the same principles, the same values that we've got, and we're in a really good spot to kick on. And we can go and reach the playoffs this season, which again would be a near miracle. It was last time. You know, I wasn't at the club last time it got promoted. I joined just after. It was a miracle that they got promoted that year on the smallest budget in the league against some of the clubs and what they were spending. And all I'll say to finish is, I'm so pleased that the last 2.5 years, 3 years, mean that the expectations of the fans have raised, and that we're now not happy with being bottom 6 in the Football League, even if that's what the finances should dictate. We are all now disappointed when we go and get beat by Walsall, or we don't beat Colchester, and rightly so, because we're all aspirational. But I'm so pleased that the standard's gone from, and the expectation's gone from there to there, and it's for us to make the most of what we've got, whatever that is, and try and meet it.
Season so far, I think Ben and Rod have covered a lot of things off, but when I first got involved in the club a long time ago, I was told there's two aspects of this club, the football side and the business side. The football side's done exceptionally well this season, despite, as we've mentioned, the budget. The recruitment's been excellent, the on-field performances. The business side has done well as well with Ben and Martin and the rest of the team down here. But the involvement, as I've unfortunately got with the owner, is less palatable and less enjoyable, and is a strain on all of us, particularly Ben down at the club and Adam who deal with the finance side. And that's something we've got to grips with before. It's not new to Morecambe that we have difficulties with owners. We've had it in the past, we'll have it again. Rod and I have been sanitised to this sort of situation over the years, and Ben's learning to get to grips with that, but it's still, as he'll testify, very challenging, very difficult sometimes, but we muddle through. We make sure that we put a decent team on the football pitch, we provide a decent service to all the supporters, and we look after the football club, and that's the most important thing for me. The fans get the best product that we possibly can with the money that we've got, which is limited, and we look after it like it's our own, and we always will. So yeah, the football side's excellent, the business side doing really well, the ownership situation will be rectified, and to make the point, as Rob did, that the owner has put money into this football club, there's no doubt about that. We haven't got the same situation here that people have had at Millwall and Wigan and Derby in the past. There is funds coming through to us. It is like getting blood from a stone sometimes, but it does eventually come through. And there's been nights in the last 9 months where Ben and I are sat by our computer screens, refreshing the screen to see whether any money's coming to the football club, to make sure that we can sort things out the following day, to make sure we can pay the wages, which we've always managed to do, except for that unfortunate one occasion in March, and we still managed to pay the wages within that calendar month. So yeah, it's been an interesting season, and it'll continue to be, and I believe, like Ben, we've still got the ability, and Rod, to get into the playoffs and do something exceptional again.
Not a huge amount left to say after all that, but I will just say this. I think, referring back to what Graham has just said, there's been times in the last year, last season and this season, that it's not been a lot of fun doing what we do, because you are looking behind you, you're wondering about money, you're stressing about stuff behind the scenes that you can't talk about and you shouldn't talk about, so you just deal with it, and we all bounce things back and forth. What I will say, and this is credit to Ged and to Fitzy and to all the players, is what's happened in the last 2 or 3 months is it's been really nice to actually enjoy the football again. And it's been really nice to see people go out on the pitch and go 1 and 2, get up 2 down, and actually play like they can win and then win and come back into games. And the spirit that's being shown on the pitch, it's a real tonic. So whatever we've got to deal with off the pitch, it makes a hell of a difference when on Tuesday nights and Saturdays we're coming back in games and we're being welcome and we're showing that spirit that this club's famous for. And that's been noticed up and down the country. There's pundits just looking across at them going, how are they doing that? How are they losing their managers and 5 players and having all of this trouble behind the scenes and still just bouncing and just getting on with it? And that, I think, is a really good thing. So yeah, appreciation to Ged, to Fitzy, to the players for being that tonic, because at times it's not been much fun.
So leading on from that, I think it's probably one of the big questions that most people ask tonight is, how is the sale of the club progressing and where are we at the minute?
Dear, I've got this again. As far as the sale goes, we've had various, I'm going to have to be careful with my language here, people coming to the football club, and we've been unpaid estate agents, is effectively showing them round the ground, as we always do, and giving them all the information on the football club. One in particular who has actually put money into the football club and bought shares. He won't be buying this football club, there's no way he'll be doing that. There's been other people that we've had who I genuinely believe, when they're talking to us, they believe they can buy this football club, and the reality is they can't. There's no way that they can. I think one of the turning points recently was when the board essentially put out a vote of no confidence in the owner and the process. That followed a very interesting week for me with him, with interesting and choice language going both ways. But from that, we've actually got people, genuine people, interested in the football club. And my colleagues, particularly Ben and Charlie, have been working behind the scenes to get credible people who will potentially buy the football club, who have the right attitude towards the football club, who have the right degree of funds. But it's an ongoing process, and this has dragged on for far too long for me, but we're still looking for a credible buyer, and as I say, there is interest in the background. But in the meantime, Jason is still putting funds into the football club. He has to do that because it protects his asset. His asset is the ground, is the players, is the academy, and he can't afford for this to go wrong. So that gives us some comfort on occasions that he will put his hand in his pocket and he will put the money in. But there have been hairy moments as far as that goes that we've all experienced, but we continue to strive to sell the football club. So yeah, there's a lot of work going on and it's still ongoing, but our friend who tried to buy it, that's not happening.
And well said. Graham mentioned the statement that the board put out, and that was, for me, a watershed moment, because since then, Ben, well, all of us really, but Ben and Charlie in particular, we've been able to get involved in that process, and we've been in Zoom meetings, Teams meetings with prospective buyers. We've heard firsthand those conversations, so we can look at and filter who we think is credible and who's not credible. So I think that's been a major move forward, that we can actually judge the prospective purchasers and look at them where before we were pretty distant from that. So from a sale point of view, it's an ongoing process. I'm sure, like all you sat here this evening, we want a swift conclusion to that. I'm sure Jason Whittingham wants a swift conclusion to that, to be fair, and let's move forward with strength that this football club deserves. Just going back to Graham's point about wages, seriously, there have been sleepless nights. I don't mean with me and Graham, don't misinterpret that. There have been sleepless nights, and all I can say is over the past 12 months, on I think 4 occasions, together with Ben, we've had to work really hard to ensure that wages were paid, and that includes some of us helping, and it also includes friends of the club. They wouldn't want to be identified, but we've got some really good, solid friends out there that have helped us And I've got to say, we've all been paid back, and that's absolutely right. But we didn't want to put this football club in a position where it was, you know, the possibility of more points deductions or whatever, and that was important at that time, and we got through it.
Sorry to add something else. It was something that Charlie Appleyard and I were discussing last Saturday at the Wimbledon game, and I think he made the point on a podcast that there are clamours from supporters, quite rightly, to shout that Jason out, but Jason actually wants out himself. In fact, if he was up here at this proposed march, I think he'd go on it himself. He does want to sell the football club, he does want to sell it to the right person. He's got a price in his head that we don't necessarily all agree with, but I can't tell you that.
How much have you got?
But it comes down, as I know from my professional experience, it's a willing buyer, willing seller. So he will budge on his price, there's no doubt in my mind. It's like anybody selling anything, you start high and you come to a compromise, and that's where we are at the moment.
Just to answer how much, but not answer it, because we can, because that'd be wrong, but no, we don't, it's not wild, it's not what you see in the press. We've got people, and like I say, I'm working with a number of parties trying to get them to that stage where they make an offer and they've got all the information. I'm working through some due diligence with them, but they know what he wants and they're not saying F off, you know, they're saying, right, let's carry on talking and we'll get to the bottom of what we can offer you. So his position isn't putting people off, it's not what you see in the Daily Mail, which is outrageous, by the way, absolutely outrageous, but we've got to get some clicks somewhere, haven't they, there? So, you know, it's getting over the line. We've got people there who we're having serious conversations with and trying to make this happen, because we all want it as much as you, and we're not a million miles off. But that's not saying anything's happened, because it hasn't. But you know, people aren't shutting the door because he wants 20 million for the club. It's just not true. But yeah, that's about as much as we can say. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort in one sense, that we are now involved. You know, I end up in the middle of half of it all the time, which is fine because I want to make it happen. But what I'm seeing is much further on and much more encouraging than maybe where we were 2 months ago, when we were incredibly frustrated because we didn't have a clue what was going on. So now we're in the loop at least.
Okay, so yesterday, put over Graham and James, the accounts came out yesterday. So, one, Graham, can you sort of explain what they were, what that means to the club? And a second, I know we had a question sent in to us, how do you think that might affect the sale of the club, if at all?
Yeah, James can have the second one. In terms of the accounts, yes, they came out yesterday. There were no great surprise to us, obviously. There's just over £1 million loss. I'm not going to go into huge detail on that because that's something for an AGM that we will be calling, because we haven't had one since before COVID. But there's quite a few factors that contribute towards that loss when you look year on year. The previous year we'd had cup runs, for example. We'd got to third round of the FA Cup, played Spurs, which brought a considerable amount of income to the football club. That particular season we got knocked out first round by Sheffield Wednesday. We did have a run in the Carabao Cup, we got to the third round, but we played Lincoln and MK Dons on the way, which, to be honest, those games lost money, didn't contribute towards our coffers. I think some people have made comments overnight on the fact that football income dropped considerably year on year. Football income is not just money through the turnstiles, there are other contributory factors into that figure. One of them being the year before, we got all football clubs got £500,000 from the Premier League to help us out post-COVID, which wasn't repeated in that year. We had insurance money coming through the previous year. We had different grants and things that were going on the previous year that weren't replicated. Also, year on year, we didn't have the transfer income that we'd had in 22 compared to 23. And there also, when you look at the figures, there are things that have vastly improved year on year in terms of commercial income, in terms of hospitality. So whilst we have made a loss, and we're not unusual in doing that, there are considerable numbers that contribute. And we were in the same league, I accept that, but there's different things going on. So I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour of why there was a loss that year, and that loss was supported through various loans, through share issues, from the ownership, from our friend that I wasn't naming before and won't name again. We also, in that season, we bought back the land at the front, the land between the Hurley Flyer and the new housing estate, and that was done through loans as well, but that was done with the help of, as Rob mentions, previous directors of the football club who had that land and have given us funds at 0 rate of interest, and you can't get a better rate than that. So I hope that helps with the figures. I'll now give James the mic.
Cheers, Graham. As for whether those accounts affect the value or how the club is viewed by potential buyers, it doesn't. It sounds like a ridiculous thing to sit up here and say, but you can say in one breath, in that season we lost £1.27 million, and in the next breath you can also say one of the best run clubs in the Football League. We are. The number of the losses in the Championship, in League 1 and League 2 are generally higher than ours. Average 20 million in the Championship, average 8 or 9 in League 1, average somewhere about half that in League 2. And so, as ridiculous as it sounds, this is a really well-run football club, and all the controllables, all the stuff like the commercial revenue, like the money we make in the turnstiles, like the money we make in the bars, the extra events, all the stuff that we've got actual control of, we do really well on without ripping anybody off. I don't think anybody feels ripped off at Morecambe, and probably that's not the case at other football clubs. So what we can control, we do well. Potential buyers can see that. You can't control whether you can sell a player in any given season. You can't control whether you're going to get to the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and you certainly can't control whether you're going to draw Swansea or Man United. So those things are out of your control, but the stuff that we can control is really good, and potential buyers know that. And it sounds ridiculous, but our losses stack up very nicely versus others. We did exceptionally well the year before in terms of the financial result, and for a variety of reasons. And in the old days, there was lots of money being lost, but that was no different to any other club. But no, it doesn't affect how attractive we are as a purchase for an investor. The ground's good, the brand of the club is good, the growing fan base is good, all the off-field stuff is by comparison to other clubs with our resources, really good. You look at our rating in terms of fan engagement, it's gone up year on year on year. You look at our rating in terms of family excellence from the EFL, gone up year on year on year. So no, it doesn't change the view of an investor. They're not surprised. You know, they were looking at the numbers before the accounts were published to the public, and they knew all about them months ago. So it doesn't change how people view the club.
Okay, James. One question we had about away travel for next year. I believe a few of the people who are organising away travel, what we're doing next year. Does the club have any plans to organise away trips?
It's a good question. It's one obviously that the Trust gets asked regularly, and we get asked as well. The reality is that, and this is true for the Trust and for the club, it's a conversation we have regularly with them and have done for the last few years. A club or a Trust run coach has got to be stewarded, and it's got to be dry, which makes perfect sense because they're official, they're organised by an official body, and that's just the rules. That does slightly reduce the desirability of an expensive seat on a coach for an awful lot of people. So we can't have an official Morecambe FC battle bus because it's just not possible. So as a result, our tickets are more expensive and also less desirable. And when we pay for a coach, like we did at Exeter last season, or when the Trust invests in coaches like it was doing for a couple of seasons, typically what happens is whoever's organised it makes a bit of a loss. Now, if we were pumping out lots of money, or if we had Ryan Reynolds owning us, you could subsidise coach travel, and it'd be a really good, positive thing to do. But we're trying to make sure that every pound is on the pitch. We're trying to make sure that every pound is behind the bar here. We're trying to make sure that things are as good as they possibly can be for everybody who is involved in the club, everybody spending the money. We can't subsidise coach travel, and that's just the way it is. When we take in hundreds and hundreds of fans to away games, it's where we have a conversation and go, well, this is a game where we might be able to do it. But there has to be a confidence that you're going to be able to at least break even on a coach. We're not trying to make a profit on these things at Morecambe. We're always just trying to break even. If you can't break even on something, you just can't do it. Under different ownership, that might be a different answer, and if somebody else comes in and owns the club and says, yeah, I don't mind losing a few £1,000s a year, and I will always have a coach going that's an official club coach, absolutely fantastic. But we can't, given the budgetary backdrop, say, yeah, we're going to lose money on that. It's just not sensible.
Okay, final one for this half, then we can all get a drink and whatever. Rod and Ben, for the community engagement work that the club does, and James made mention there, the fan base has grown and grown the past few years. I think the fans we've got are absolutely amazing, the fans and how it's built up in the last few years. We were all here when it was 200, 300, many years ago. So what we've got today, it's different gravy, isn't it? So how can we develop the community stuff that we're doing, and how are we going to improve it even further? Because Stuart and his team look to be doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, unbelievable job from everyone at the club, everyone at the community foundation, but he's one now as well. You know, when I came in 3 years ago, we asked the community foundation, how do you feel? You know, do you feel a part of it? Do you feel valued? And the answer was no, and that was from years and years and years of all sorts. So the first thing we did was got to work on making that right, and making them feel proud to wear the badge, because they're out in the community in Morecambe and Lancaster and the wider area every day of the week, delivering such a variety of projects, from school children through to the over 60s club we had in this morning. It's brilliant. So we worked really hard on getting that right and getting Stuart and the leadership a voice at the table. So in our club management team, Stuart sits on that. So it's not just saying it's important, it's making it important. You know, sit here and show us and contribute, and the other senior managers will look at you as a colleague and not someone who works separately. Because the power of what the Community Foundation do is unbelievable. I think I'm particularly passionate about it because I'm a trustee as well as yourself and Rod. But the impact that they have on people's lives, as no doubt some people in the room will have experienced themselves, is something that is even beyond what happens on a Saturday out there. You know, if we can change one person's life or make it better or help them, how do you value that up against 3 points? I know they're two separate things, but it's, you know, our plan is, can we do it all? You know, and that's what we're working towards. So that's been really important to us. We've pushed on leaps and bounds. The team do such a good job, and they deliver quality provision, and that's going to grow. That's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to scale up. We're going to broaden what we do. They're linking on a match day as well, so the experience on a match day. We've gone from 66th in the Football League 3 years ago to now 27th as of the first visit this year, and we're hoping to push into that top 20 this year. And the community team are huge in delivering that as well, engaging people to come to the ground, and when they come, can they have a better experience when they first walk down the road? When they come into the stadium, is there bits going on? You know, it's not going to always be to everyone's taste, but we try and do as much as we can. So yeah, I'm hugely passionate about that. I know Stuart feels really good about it, because we regularly meet up and have a really good relationship there. What they do is so important to what we do, and we have great buy-in from Ged and Fitzy and the lads as well, because they are the hook. You know, no one wants to come and watch me go on for 20 minutes about all this. But they want to go and see the players, and the players and the manager and the staff, and they have to buy into it. And we've got some fantastic ambassadors for the football club who go above and beyond and do things that you know, sometimes Matt and Jack do an incredible job of highlighting the great work they do. And sometimes they do things that we don't share with people, and that's not to be secretive. That's just, it's the right thing to do, and it doesn't need to go on Facebook or Twitter. They'll go and see someone who might be poorly. You know, we've had lads go and visit hospices recently, and the children's ward, yes, we publicise that because we want to try and show our support for them, but there's other things that people probably don't see, and you know, we'd love to share them, but we don't want it to look like it's for the wrong reason. They go and have an impact on people's lives, and we know the importance of that. So credit to Ged and Fitzy and everyone for buying into that. It's so important to what we do, and I wouldn't be here trying to do the job I do if I didn't have buy-in off everyone around the community and the support.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. A lot of good work has gone on with the community scheme. It started off, as Graham knows and Quinny knows, they were there at the start, as football in the community. It's moved on massively since then. It's a charitable organisation now. There's still a lot goes on that is under the radar, and rightly so, and I think one thing we have been guilty of over the years is not really pushing out the good stories. And thanks to Matt and the media team and Jack, you know, that is happening now, and that's so important. The buy-in from Ged and Fitz and the players, again, so important, because we're actually getting these guys out there into schools, into health facilities, whatever it might be, and those visits make an absolute massive difference. I remember, it's a few years ago now, going with a number of players to Unique Kids, which is a really well, a tear-jerking experience, really. You know, you look at that, and I came out of that, and some of the lads came out of that with tears rolling down their faces, because they hadn't experienced that type of environment before. And it's that realisation that this goes on in every town, every city in our country, and football can play a massive part in that. So we've got the extra time club on a Friday. We've got a very vibrant veterans, armed service veterans section going. So there's a whole host of different interests. It's not just match day. Match day is a massive thing, because community have brought that and done their bit to enhance the experience of well, you all and visiting supporters, and that's the impression that they take away from Morecambe Football Club. But the groundwork is every day of the week. It isn't just match day; it's every day. And I think Stuart Glover has seriously brought it on leaps and bounds. Loads of good work before, but the game's altered, massively altered, and he's brought it up to another level.
Okay, thank you everyone. I'm going to blow the whistle for half time. We've had 10 minutes of added time, as we tend to have most days now. Matt Smith from our media team will be coming around with a microphone. So if you can ask your question, Matt, raise your hand, ask a question, and ask if you can, or put who the question's for, if possible. If it's for Ged and Fitzy, or if it's for a board member, or if it's for a specific board member, then let us know. So have we got any first? Mr. Goodwin over there, Matt? Mr. Goodwin should teach me, he shows how old I'm getting.
That's how old I am, yeah.
He should teach me, and I'm older than you.
Didn't do a good job, did it?
No, your sins find you out, I'm afraid. Question for Ged and members of the board. Are we going to have a widespread departure of players again at the end of this season, or is the manager going to be able to keep a nucleus of our better players to build on for the next season? Because it's no surprise that people like Tutonda, JJ Bedon Senior will be snapped up if they're not under contract. Is there anything we can do if they're not under contract?
Good question. We've obviously sat down, I've gone through the players that we'd like to keep for next season, between myself, Fitzy and the board, and we've approached maybe 7 or 8 of them already and made them offers, so we can't do any more than that. We really want to keep them, because we all know the top players and know they will offer us next year. But this day and age, it's really hard to keep all of them when bigger clubs are coming off and double the wages or whatever. So hopefully we can do really well this season, get in the playoffs, and hopefully keep them. Hopefully.
I think that's a fair comment, Jed. You cannot make somebody sign a piece of paper, but every effort is being made to retain the nucleus that Ged wants. Okay? Just a quick one. I spoke to a couple of... Sorry?
I didn't teach you.
No, you bloody didn't. Skirting Academy, me. Yeah, I was speaking to a couple of people during the interval there, and could you all please make sure you keep your tables tidy and any waste in the bin, because the litter pickers don't work on a Friday night. They only work on a Saturday afternoon.
And a Tuesday night.
On a Tuesday night, sorry, on a Tuesday night.
I think on recruitment, what we're trying to do is break this cycle, as you said, of all the players disappearing at the end of the season. We went through this when Jimbo was here, that everybody left at the end of the season. as Jed said, there have been offers made to players, and as Rod said, we can't hold a gun to people's heads, but we are making every effort to make the best offers that we can afford right now. That's not meaning it's acceptable to them, but it's the best that we can afford right now.
Just one added to that. How many players are on options, or how does the option system work?
The option system works however we create it. So this year we've got a number of players, 5 maybe, on a trigger. So if they start a certain amount of games, they will get another year. But what we're looking to move to, we've been quite open about it, is where we offer a year, we have a club option for a further year. Which is probably something we've missed in the past, and you've got to go through it and learn and feel it the hard way. We are sincerely hopeful that the contracts we've offered will be accepted by some, probably not all. We know where we're at, we're doing well, like Jed said, and the financial muscle and opportunity within this league and possibly the League One is far in excess of where we're at. But what we can offer to the lads and what has worked really well in the negotiations is it's a known quantity here. They know who they're coming to work for. They're coming to work for these chaps on the end, and they enjoy that. And they're playing at a club that supports them, and we're paying them, to do the job. And I think that the lads who have switched on realise that yes, you might see that amount of noughts on the end of your wage. And I can understand why some will go for that, but there's such a huge value to them, if they're early on in their career perhaps, to be playing somewhere they enjoy playing football and are backed by the manager and his staff, which the amount of players you see go on to something and then don't play a lot of football and fall out of the game. We sit here and tell them that and talk to their representatives and themselves about that, and they make their own mind up, and sometimes you just want to sort of get them in a side of a room and just say, look, come on, we have been through this, we think we know what's good for your career, but obviously they have other influences who are in their ear as well, and maybe have different motives, and that's not about these lads in particular, that's just the game and where it's at, and how can you make a quick few quid every summer, and it's quite sad to see, but we're doing all we can, and like I say, I'm hopeful that we can get a few over the line on better deals for the club moving forwards. I think we're all on the same page as to where we want to go and look a little bit longer term and have that security for the club. So we've just got to go and crack on and do our best, and that's what we will do.
It isn't just players who want a few quid either, and I have no issue at all with individual want to get the best pay in that situation, but you've also got agents, and sometimes when agents get into a player's mind, it scrambles them, absolutely scrambles them, and they can be distracted, they can turn off, they can not be themselves, the mind's elsewhere, and that's one of the issues with football now. It isn't just about the player like it used to be, it's about a whole host of other things surrounding all that people like Jed and Ben have to deal with on a regular basis. We've got a good group right now, but historically I know there's people that have been, the brain's been absolutely panjaxed because of those outside influences.
Okay, next question. Paul?
Jed, I'm on the microphone.
You okay?
Jed, you did a very excellent job coming to Morecambe. I'm very proud to be a Morecambe supporter, and may it always continue. And I've got a question for you, Mr. Taylor. Loan players, can we keep them? Can we get them on contract? So that, can we tie them down on contract so they won't go back to their own clubs, so we can keep them for next season?
The loan players, you mean, We've actually spoke to a couple of the parent clubs and asked them about next season if we can keep them. Spoke to Bolton about Nelson and we spoke to Wigan about Joe. So things at the minute is ongoing, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to keep them two for next year. And as I said before, we've got a really good thing going with Forest at the minute, so we might be able to get a couple more of their players next year who are coming through the 23s, who are top players who have been watching. So it's looking good for us for the loan players at the minute.
Anyone else? This chap here, Matt.
It's just an add-on from the question before. We seem to have a lot of players on short-term contracts. Is that normal for our level of football, or is it a problem for this club not to have longer contracts?
I'll start with Jed.
I had an interview on Thursday about the match, and I got asked that question. And I'd say, from my point of view, I'd never give a player a 1-year contract. I'd always give him a year with an option. But obviously, the last manager, I'm not going to go with Derek or nothing like that. And that's what he wanted to do. So obviously, we've come into this situation where all the lads are out of contract. But me and Ben have had a conversation, and from now on, we're going to always make sure that we've got an option on them at the end of the year. So it's down to us whether we want to keep them from the year or not. So that's what we're trying to do at the minute.
Yeah, just very, very quickly to add to that. It's not normal, to answer the first part of the question, it's probably not normal. It has been normal for us because of the circumstance around the ownership, and we don't know what next year's budget is. And that's a challenge, but it's a bit chicken and egg. If you have no players under contract, you've got no one with any value or that you can sell to try and generate funds to make yourselves better and then put yourselves on a better financial footing. So, yeah, we've got to this point, and we've had some fantastic years and we've had some challenges recently, but as Jed says, we're just looking forward and we're working well together and are on the same understanding, and hopefully we can make some meaningful impact and have some players here who you're proud, to represent the shirt, and they are, and they do really well for us, and then become the next Adam Mayer or the next Carlos, which we need. We need to keep moving forward as a club. We need that. It's the only way you can keep moving forward as a club without someone putting millions in a year, as you can see from our accounts and other clubs that you'd look at in a similar vein to us. So we're going to work hard to change that, and we're on the same page as a board and as a management team. There's a fantastic synergy here. We have absolute belief in these two and the rest of the backroom staff to get this right. I think we're seeing some progress and improvement already. After one window in which we lost 5 players, that was really challenging. But I'm really, really excited about the summer and the people that Jed can bring to the club with Fitzy and his staff to be on that pitch next year as well. And I say that as if we've not got 14 games or 15 games to go and get in the playoffs this season, but I really do, despite the challenges we face, how exciting is it to be a point off the playoffs with 15 games to go? If you'd have offered me that in June, July, and this isn't me being negative or defeatist, I would have looked at you and gone, what? We've got no players, we've got 5 players under contract, League One contracts, we've got the smallest budget in the league, and you're telling me with 14 games to go, we're going to be taking everyone on and going into every game thinking we can win it? I'd have snapped your hand off. So, really pleased where we're at, really excited about where we can go. Ben?
First of all, I'd like to say, Jed, fantastic job since coming in. I think it's great to see that you're starting to put your brand of football onto the club, and I think the fans are really enjoying that. I think Walsall was a bit of a blip on Tuesday night. I don't think the performance was there, but who have we got to have that God-given right to beat a team like Walsall? So I think we're doing really well. I think we've got to back the players that we've got. So kudos to Fitz and to Ged for coming in and making instant impact. We've lost our whole forward line. That's no easy feat. The question that I've got is more probably for the board, but Forest Green released their annual statement and their wage budget was 5.4 million in League One. Soak that in, that's 5.4 million and the second bottom of this league. I just really worry that we've released a statement yesterday to say we've lost 1.3 million and we've got a record budget and we're saying it's one of the lowest in the league. What is the longevity for Morecambe Football Club with the wages that we're facing? And what do we think about the regulation that's needed?
It's a really good question, and it goes back to that ridiculous statement where you can say we're one of the best run clubs in the league, and yesterday we announced that we lost 1.3 million in the financial year before this one. It's ridiculous that statement is true and stupid in equal measure. To the question, I mean, the game and the structure of the game, and this is my personal opinion, but it's an opinion I know a lot of people in football hold alongside me. The structure of the game doesn't work. It's not set up right. We need an independent regulator. You can't have clubs spending 2, 3, 4 times what they can afford. You can't have Torquay, who went into administration yesterday. You can't have Bury disappearing. You can't have Bolton plunging down the pyramid. All of these things come about because the game is set up to gamble on the Premier League, and then the Premier League gives parachute payments to one club that equal the total distributions that all the clubs in the Championship, League 1, League 2 and the rest of the pyramid get combined. That one parachute payment gives that one club more money than every other club below the Premier League combined. It's absolute nonsense. So we need an independent regulator, in my opinion. I would urge people to go and have a look into the information that organisations like Fair Game have got out there. I'd urge people to read the Tracy Crouch white paper, and if you're going to go on the March of Support, which the Trust is organising, then it might be worth thinking about bringing some national message into that as well, because we all care about Morecambe first and foremost, obviously we do, but Morecambe are in no different situation to every other smaller football club up and down the country, and several really big ones as well. And unless they change the structure of the game, unless there's a regulator brought in, then there'll be another Torquay next month, and there'll be another Bury next season, and it'll just keep happening. Towns will lose the football teams, and then things like the community get undermined. And it's all nonsense, because players just want to play football. And there's a huge amount of money in the English game, stupid amounts of money. Like the transfer windows that the English clubs have, the Premier League clubs have, equal all of the other leagues in Europe combined 2 seasons on the bounce. So there's more than enough money in the game. Just needs to be distributed differently, and we need a regulator. That's my personal opinion, and that's the only answer. Otherwise, we'll always have this fight, and we'll always be trying to do with less against other clubs that are willing to gamble to try and get themselves up and try and get a little bit of that gold dust that the Premier League are chucking out. So I think regulation is the only answer.
I can only endorse what James said then, and clubs, owners, boards, they chase that final goal of the Premiership, and the money at that level is just absolutely ridiculous, and it has to filter through at some point. So I think you made a very good point, James, about the march of support, and if that can be incorporated into that message, I think that's absolutely superb. Tom, the figures you quoted then, from Forest Green, is that right? 5.4 million. Did that include the butcher's bill? I'm only asking, lad.
Was there one more from that end, Matt? Tanya?
First question, you talked about the community sports, and we agree, we support the community sports, they do a fantastic job. I think a couple of seasons ago you brought the women's team under the community sports umbrella, and I was just interested from a board perspective to see how you think that's going and what further plans you've got in relation to building on the women's team. I think with the popularity of WSL, etc. It's probably, possibly another income stream for the club if you get that right and you kind of build on that curve. So that's the first question around how do you think it's going, what are the further plans? And if Martin's around, I'm not offering, but in terms of the away travel, is there not a way where we can do the maths on what that loss is and have it as a sponsorship package, so you're the official away sponsor, so you know that you plough in, say, 10 grand just off the top of my head into it, but you get then the marketing around away travel, away support. So again, Martin, I'm not offering if you're around, but it's just something to think about.
Here he is, he's coming through the door now, he's a sponsorship.
There's a Martin-shaped hole
With a contract.
Already printed. I'll answer the first question. On the second, I'll answer the second question first. Very fair point. Like I said, probably one for Martin, and we'll pick up with him. If there's an opportunity there, then absolutely we'll look at it, because, as James said, our ideal world would be that we can support that and put that on and help people with that. Our reality is we can't afford to stomach that ourselves at the moment. So if there's a way, we will certainly look into it and assist with that. We want that to happen.
There he is.
On your first question, with the women's setup, again, genuinely something I'm really passionate about, because when I was at Harrogate Town, my old club, I set that up with my good friend John Maloney. That's how I got in there, that's how my career started, so that's how that's why I'm really passionate about it. So we set it up from scratch, and 4 years later we were at the level that the Morecambe women's are now at, and the impact we had on women's and girls' lives at a time where opportunities weren't really there. You know, as recent as that's 8 years ago, it was new, it was groundbreaking around there, and we got it to a point where we're having 60 girls training on a Friday every night at the main stadium, becoming supporters of the club, both men's and women's, and we understand not only the impact on their lives, but the impact that them and their families can have on the club in general. It's not men's football, women's football, it's, if you get it right, it's all linked. So coming here, we had a really well-established Morecambe ladies, they were called. It's its own entity, it's its own committee, and we had two choices basically, because they'd always used the badge on an unofficial basis. We had two choices. We had either we continue to let that happen and it just finds its way and they continue to build their own way forward, or we set up our own. And we looked into it and we thought, why would you let all that good work establishing a junior section and the women's teams, why would you let that go to waste just to set up our own and cause a problem? So we've worked really, really hard with the committee there, and Nick and Sophie, again through Stuart Glover, he's the sort of middleman between the club and the women's team, which we wanted, because then the community foundation are embedded in it. So we've got charity, women's team, and then sort of the club that is almost a commercial business vehicle to support that. So I'm really pleased with where it's gone. You know, we came in and we said, can we do 5 things to just make things better for you? Can we make sure you're in proper kit and training wear? Can we make sure you have access to proper training facilities? Can you play 3 games a year here? We want to cover it as a media team so it looks and feels like Morecambe Football Club, and there's a consistency, which I think we've achieved. You know, it's not running before you walk, it's appreciating a lot of good work's gone on before. There's a lot of work still to do, but you know, we were, like I said, with the Community Foundation at the start. If you'd have asked Morecambe Girls Club 3 years ago, do they feel a part of Morecambe Football Club, they'd have said absolutely not. You know, we've worked really hard to try and make that happen. So when we have club events and when we have end of season awards, we've got the men's first team, the women's first team, and the scholars here now. We have club events, and the women's team and setup are invited as standard. So day to day you see that sort of embedding. There's challenges because it isn't, you know, they operate under a licence. That's the way we wanted to set it up. We didn't want to become their committee. So they've got their own committee and they operate under a licence, but we sort of grant them, and in return we give them X, Y and Z that I sort of touched on earlier, and Martin does a good job getting the sponsorship for them that we can invest in supporting that. So we make no money out of a relationship directly, but as I spoke about at the start, the secondary introduction into the club and feeling a part of a club is our benefit from that, as well as James loves to say, sometimes it's just the right thing to do, and that's how I feel about it, probably because of my background. Sometimes things don't always make commercial sense or business sense, but they're just the right thing to do, and I genuinely feel that. So, progress made, loads to do still. Can it grow and develop here? Absolutely. We're nowhere near a glass ceiling with what we can do. It's just establishing them working practices and expectations and mutual support. Once you get that nailed, that's when you can really start to fly. So groundwork's made, but as you say, Tanya, it's a hugely exciting and developing arm of football in every club. You see the development at the top level of a game. And the money that will inevitably be fed into there, and like with the Premier League downwards, it's gonna follow through. So we're on board. We don't always get it right, but we try our best, and we'll always try our best, and we'll continue to.
I've just got this chap down here. I'll do this one.
Good evening. Just a quick question on something you brought up in the first half about purchasing the land next to the Hurley Flyer. I was just wondering what your ideas and thoughts are, what you want to use that land for. Is it something that's going to improve the match day experience for us fans? And secondly, the areas of the ground that Tyson Fury owns, the football pitches and the gym, is that something that we're looking to bring back in-house? Is there any discussions going on in regards to that?
I'll take the first bit. The land at the front, we were trying to get that back for quite some time, and there was time pressure on that because two former directors had bought the land to help the football club out when Peter McGuigan was here, and if we didn't take action to bring it back into the football club, it could have fallen into somebody else's hands. Fortunately, we got support on that. As to what we want to do with it, well, first of all, I'd like some money to spend on it, and it's trying to find that. We would like to level the land, that's the first thing. We've looked at options, particularly with regard to a fan zone, and also linking up with the Eden project to maybe do some kind of park and ride facility, so that there is plans in place, subject to money coming in, to make it for the benefit of the football club and the benefit of the fans at the football club. So I'll give Ben the next bit.
Yeah, just on that, I don't sit here and go, we want to build a McDonald's on it, like what benefits that for anyone? But I also sit here and go, we don't have the money to do anything meaningful on it at the moment as well, so it will just sit there for now. But it's actually, again, touching on the first part, that's part of when potential buyers are doing the due diligence. That's something that excites them, having the land there available to do something with. And it's not building a McDonald's or a hotel on it, it's, we're talking about what can we do on it, and it's fan zones, and it's can something double up as an office space for our community team who are sort of nomadic at the moment, and some overspill from the club that's been growing and scaling up. So there's all sorts we'd love to do, and it will be fan beneficial in the end. It will be, because it has to be. Even if you have to split it and go, we'll do some extra parking and we'll do an area that fans can enjoy. On the second question around Tyson's land, from a club's, I sit with two hats. I'm obviously club and community. Club point of view, we are simply not in a position to even come to the table, and we'd be offering a pint of San Miguel type thing compared to the value of what it is. So there's no point in trying to approach it that way. So we've gone from a community angle. So as a board of trustees of the community foundation, we have had talks over the last 2 years. We would love, in an ideal world, to bring that back into club ownership. The reality is, ultimately, it's privately owned land, as everyone's house would be, or as any other business. So the challenge being, as with the sale of a club, it's a willing buyer, willing seller, appropriate price for both. So there are opportunities there. Do I think they're close? No. Do I think something could be done one day? Absolutely. I just think it's you know, Tyson's obviously a very busy person and in the midst of his career at the moment. Maybe when he's got other things he wants to focus on, that might be the time that something can happen. But we've explored it. It's not going to work financially for us as a club or Community Foundation at the moment. So as much of a shame as it is seeing it sat there empty when we're talking about scaling up the community work we do, it'd be wonderful to have it, but it's not ours, and it's as awful as it sounds, and I know it's been part of a club before. It's only like going down Heysham Mossgate and saying we want to do what we want here. It's just not ours. It's 10 yards away though, it isn't that frustrating.
The really frustrating elements of a lot of this that's just been talked about is when Diego Lemus was involved, and Graham will bear this out, he ignored letters from Cooperative Bank, I think it was at the time, right? And that ended up with one day, and we were in a meeting that day here, the bailiffs arrived, locked the doors, end of, that was it. We had, I think, maybe 12 hours, committee had 12 hours to clear the facility out. We couldn't do anything about it, job was done, we lost the control room, which we had to replace over on this side, which cost us an executive box, which would have brought money in. On and on this goes. There were opportunities at the time to purchase that land via auctions. At the end of the day, it didn't happen. I feel it should have happened. Again, very frustrating. Tyson bought it, and as Ben said, that's the situation we're in now. The land at the front, on both sides, where the house is being built now and next to the Hurley Flyer, two directors absolutely bailed this football club out at the time. The then owner needed an input of money. Yes, Graham, is that about right? An input of money, and these directors put substantial funds in, but obviously wanted some security. So the land was the security, and that was a great gesture at that time. We looked at getting that land back. The two ex-directors involved were open to what we were proposing, and as Graham said, our aim would be a fan zone. That would be our ultimate aim, combined with Monday to Friday uses. So hopefully, in a period of time, we can get there. But it needs capital. It needs money to be spent. Right now, we haven't got that money, but that is the plan. That is the plan going forward.
Okay, this gentleman again.
Just a question, what's the fan zone?
What's a fan zone?
Very high level. It's somewhere where pre-match and possibly post-match people can go, and you'd like to see sort of street vendors on there. You could get a bite to eat, a drink. You'd have some entertainment. So the things we do out the front of the stadium, having more of an organised area and a little bit more around that, so that younger fans might be able. You look at the clubs, younger fans might be able to come in and play five-a-side or something. There might be a five-a-side pen, and then the inflatables next to it. Away fans can come and have a drink and a bite to eat. So there's some clubs that do it really well. I think Wickham we talk about quite well. Not huge cost. They have the land, they have it all right, and then they put up a big sort of permanent gazebo and everything's underneath it. So just again, so people don't feel like they have to turn up at 5 to 3. There's a reason to come at 1 o'clock.
Paul?
Have we ever thought 2 seasons ago we had posters going around Morecambe, and we had a thought of having them back just to tell people when there's a game at Morecambe?
Again, Paul, it's something that the Trust supported us with extremely well. It's an option. We used to have them all over the place, in shops, chip shops, whatever. The world's changed a bit, the internet's there now, a lot of advertising's done via that media, but it's always something we could look at, Paul, and thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, question for the board. say we get a year down the line and Jason's still here, the chances are we're not going to have an Adam Mayer sort of player to sell because we haven't got any players in contract. We're gambling on cup, doing well in the cup. How long can we survive with Jason as the owner?
I mean, that is almost impossible to answer. It's a question that Jason could answer. Ultimately, his interest, and I say this factually and objectively, not because he's a particular friend of mine, but it's in his interest to keep paying the bills until somebody comes along and buys the football club, and that's really his sole interest now. That's why his involvement in anything club-related has been almost zero for quite some time, because his sole interest is to sell the club. We've, I think, done, again, it sounds ridiculous because you post losses and then you say this, we've done a really good job of controlling all the things we can control. We have actually had significantly higher player sales revenue in the last 4 years than has been the case before that. And the cup runs have come about due to good performances by the team, and the fact that we're now punching and we're not a bottom 5, bottom 6 League 2 team, we're a proper competitive one. So you can hope for those bits of revenue, but we won't be budgeting on the basis of them. You know, there's football fortune, and it's called football fortune for a reason. And until we've got a structure set up such that we're bringing young players through, we're giving them the right length of contracts, we're able to develop them, we can't rely upon revenue from fair player sales, so we don't budget on it. And equally, a cup run is pure fortune. I mean, that is absolute chance whether you make any money off a cup run or not, if you're a League 2 side. So it'd be impossible to answer. If Jason was sitting here, he would say, I'm trying to sell a football club, I'll fund it until a point that I've managed to do that. But we can only control what we can control.
The other thing on that is the EFL are negotiating with the Premier League at the moment in terms of extra funding coming down to the Football League. That's their way, in my mind, to try and avoid a regulator being appointed. I think, as James has said, that a regulator will be appointed in due course, but there may be money coming to us which will help us out. We were hoping that something was going to come through in January, but the negotiations have stalled, and it may well be into the summer now before something comes through. But that's revenue that I think will come through and will help us out. As to Adam Mayer, well, we never know. We might get another player that comes through like Adam. Adam took his opportunity in the Johnson's Paints Trophy, I think it was, away at Harrogate, and performed and did well. And there may well be somebody coming through the academy that'll do it likewise. So there's always that opportunity, as Jason said, as James said. Sorry, I won't call you Jason. There is football fortune, and we've been fortunate in the last couple of seasons as far as that goes, but you can't guarantee on it, and we never ever budget to progress anything beyond the first round of any competition.
Just very quickly to add to that, just so people are aware, we posted a loss of nearly 1.3 million this year, but it's not going to be anything like that again for the financial year we're in at the moment, without promising anything, because there's still 4 months or 3.5 months to get through. We'd expect to be probably in the region of 500,000 this year. So we're making inroads. Yes, there's been player sales, yes, there's been cup runs, but we're not a million miles off, and as James said earlier, right or wrong, a lot of chairman owners in League 2, League 1 would absolutely snap your hand off for our position, as crazy as it sounds when we're not sleeping at night. But that's where we are, and we get on with it. So financial performance is much better this year, or going to be much better. Selling players and having cup runs whilst unbudgeted is part of football, so as much as we say we were unlucky not having it last year, we're fortunate to have it this year, and it helps. But Jason Bond Group approved a significant loss pre-season. We won't be posting that loss that they approved and committed to funding. So we've performed better than they had signed up to this year, and we're moving in the right way. And it is a huge if there's a Premier League deal done in the next 6 months, we move to a position, I believe, where we're breaking even or profitable on the back of that deal with the numbers we've been given. So we're not a million miles off at all. It's just keeping on, battling on and getting there. And final little fun fact, if we were operating at the same wage budget we did 3 years ago, and that's all it is, 3 years ago when we got promoted, we'd probably make money this year. You know, that's how far football's moved. When I talk about us posting them sort of losses, you know, if we were on the same budget that got us promoted 3 years ago, which was the smallest in the league still then, probably make a couple of quid this year, which, as difficult as it is, shows you how close to being right we are, and we've just got to keep trying our best to get us there.
Yeah, it's a killer. You set out, you say, like, vision, we're going to achieve sustainable competitive football in X years, and in those X years, inflation, but only on the football cost side, make it unachievable. Where you've done all the hard work behind the scenes that actually should mean it's there. The other thing is, in that season where we posted that loss, if we had operated on a break-even football budget in that season, then Sheffield Wednesday would have spent 10 times more on their squad than we spent. Not 4 or 5 times, 10 times more, and there'd be 3 or 4 other clubs not far off. And that again, we all want to see a competitive team on a Saturday, and we stayed in League One for a season. We weren't far off staying in League One for a second season, so nobody can say we didn't deserve to be there and we didn't compete. But the money in football at the moment, it's ridiculous.
This week, Andy Holt of Accrington has been very transparent with his fans about season ticket prices. Have we thought about season ticket prices for next year? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, we want to come on sale earlier than we ever have. So we're looking towards the end of March so people can get the early bird prices in. Prices will go up again, you know, because we are the best value for money, the cheapest. You know, I don't want to use the word because what we're producing on the pitch isn't the cheapest, but we're the cheapest in the country. We put a small increase in last year, we'll put a small increase in again. Don't be surprised to see the same sort of level of increase as last year, and don't pin me down and say, well, you said 20 quid and it's 25, but you're looking at 20-25 quid, being completely transparent on an adult ticket, which when you see Walsall release theirs and Tranmere, and we're not them, so let's not be about them, we're Morecambe, and we're proud and we understand what we're about. You pay pretty much double there to see football that's nowhere near as good this season. We went there at Tranmere and showed them how to play football, I thought, apart from the first 10 minutes, but you'll take it, we got there in the end. So it's not justifying that, but we're still going to be one of the best priced tickets in the country, so keep an eye out for that.
Brian? Step for me,
I'm proud to say I've been a supporter of Morecambe for probably 40 odd years, and standing on terraces with Rod, and I think at the moment we're fantastic, we're playing brilliant, we just need to score a few more goals. My question is, prize money for cup runs, is it played during the season or at the end of the season?
During the season.
Cheers,
Well, it's been mentioned a couple of times, this March for Support that's happening at the Wrexham game, that we're hoping everybody will attend and get onto. Currently, we've been in contact with the police and it's an ongoing thing. Currently, the march is due to stop at the Hurley Flyer. What I'd like to know is there any chance that we can come onto the club land outside the front of the Mazuma for photo opportunities, because we're hoping to get national coverage and press coverage?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Paul. Fair enough. Fair play to the trust in yourself. You've been proactive in communicating this with me and the club. The answer is what we spoke about earlier, which is if it comes onto club land, it becomes our responsibility to look after it as a sort of public order consideration. So what that would mean is we'd have to put more stewarding out there, we'd have to engage with the police around our policing plan, and I know you said the police operation doesn't start till 1. That might be formally for them, but we're responsible for any policing associated on the day, because we get charged for it, and we get charged for it as soon as they come on the footprint. We don't pay for them, as daft as it sounds. I'll be straight about it. We don't pay for them beyond the end of this road, but as soon as they have to come onto our land, we pay for them, and they're on overtime. So my position, I've spoke to ground safety, I've spoke to stadium operations, our position would be, it would be preferable that it was to finish formally at the Hurley Flyer, and of course if 200 people then continue down Christie Way and want to come in for a pint or to take a few photos, then so be it. You know, we're open at that time as such, but you know, if we can work together on this, I'm not sitting here and saying no. We understand and we appreciate the feeling of support from the trust. We really do, and we understand why people want to do something, and a march of support, a demonstration of support is seems a fair and practical way of showing exactly what you're looking for. But as I say, on a formal front, if it can end at the end of the road, it means we don't have to start risk assessing it, stewarding it, because then we're in a position where I'm not saying we're not, as I said, we're not understanding where you're coming from and appreciative of it, but suddenly then we're in a position where we might have a conflict of interest on the day because we're getting nudged by the police to say move them on, whatever it is. So for me, it's a lot cleaner if it just formally ends at the Hurley Flyer, and then we might look to, like you said, put a drinks deal on or something from the JBs when it opens.
I think that's a fairly pragmatic answer from Ben. I've had conversations about this going back a few months now, and I have a cautionary message in this. For this march of support to be a success, you've got to get numbers out, because if you don't get the numbers out, it will have the opposite effect. And that's all I'm going to say on that. You need it to be effective and for the right reasons. So, Paul, over to you on that one.
Did you have another bit, Paul, or you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the trust are actually marshalling or stewarding the march. So, if you needed extra stewards on the day, us walking down 50 yards down the road, I don't think any of us had any problem helping you out with that.
Yeah, I think the underlying message is we understand where you're coming from and appreciate it. And I mean, I know I keep saying that, but that's genuinely where we're at. Let's just continue to talk between the trust and the club, and we can find something practical by the time we get there.
Paul, just another one on the march. It's changed its title to a march of support.
A demonstration of support.
What does that mean now? Support of what?
Of the club, and trying to get the sale of the club out to the wider public.
Right.
Try to help you lot.
Yeah, I get that. That's fine.
Well, it's a demonstration to support the club. It's a demonstration that's set for sale, that the club's for sale. But some people around the northwest don't know it's for sale, and that's what it's for.
I do like James's suggestion as well that you know, we use it as a national debate as well about the distribution of funding for football clubs. I suspect if James came up with a couple of sentences for a poster, he could.
You'll get an essay.
Can you sign those, James? Just on that subject, James, you're on about now, the trust have been approached by other trusts to do marches. It's actually for, just bear with me, Footballers Broken, who's actually the company that are doing it. Again, it's wanting all trusts and football fans to march, be it nationally or individually, for each and every club, to support what you were saying earlier on about pointing out that the clubs could go under, that it does need a regulator, an independent one, and that's what they're aiming for. So that what you were saying earlier on is something that other trusts are looking in, and obviously we've been approached as well as a trust. And then we'll go through that as it comes along.
You know, this industry that we're at the pointy end. This industry that we're at the pointy end of is the only multi-billion-pound or euro industry in Europe that doesn't have a regulator. It's just an absolute nonsense. So I'm really pleased that that's happening. As long as these protests, as long as these demonstrations, as long as these expressions of feelings are peaceful and they move us forward towards a regulator, then the more the better. It's a shame that it takes clubs to go under. It takes a talkie yesterday for us all to go, yeah, actually it's not just about the signings that we make and about, you know, the deadline day stuff and the fun stuff. No, actually this game doesn't need to be unsustainable, so yeah, it's good that it's happening.
What's happening with the community garden? It's a very good question.
That is with the trust. Yeah, no, again, not. Okay, so my view is that it's with the trust and that we want to work mutually to get it sorted, and there's talk about can we do something on the land out there at the front that we've just acquired, which, you know, short term isn't going to be a possibility unless we find best part of 100 grand from somewhere to level it and gravel it. So we'll look at practical solutions, but again, probably want to aim towards a trust, and I will more than happily meet with a trust whenever or wherever we do on a monthly basis, and if that's on the agenda, we'll discuss it. I think everyone wants it to happen. It's just getting it over the line. As with everything, you get 90% of the way, and then it's getting actually done's the toughest bit. But you know, I know, and fair play to Quinny for raising an awful lot of money for it as well. You know, so good on Quinny there and everyone involved. We'll pick that up. We'll keep that on the agenda.
Very good.
I'm going to be greedy. I've got two questions actually. One for Jed. What do you see as a success this season, coming into the season? And then one, perhaps Ben, Graham, you can answer. Sky Sports have got a 5-year deal starting next season for 248 League 2, 248 League 1, wherever we may be, games to be broadcast each season. Just to kind of get your general thoughts on what benefit that might actually have for us. Make you simple maths, 24 teams in each league, so you think that every team will probably get 10 home games across those 5 years. But is, to your knowledge, is there any commitment that that will be spread evenly, not just be Wrexham TV?
Being honest, I really think if we keep everybody fit, the squad we've got at the minute, we can lead to playoffs, and that's what we strive to do as a staff. But it's, as I say, we've got a small squad. Let's keep everyone fit. Like for instance tomorrow, obviously we've got a few players that we're missing tomorrow. That if we have back, obviously I think we'll easy win the game. But as I say, if we can keep everyone fit all season, we've got a really good chance of making the playoffs. I think. Can we be fit? A bit of pressure on you. I've answered the question for me. He was obviously there.
From, like I say, the target from the first meeting when I came in to support Jed, the first meeting we had with the players was playoffs. That's still our target. I know genuinely we take each game as it comes. That's our one. Getting the 3 points. From there, we're going out to win every game. We're going to lose some. We're going to draw some. And we're going to win, not putting performance in that we strive to get, but it's more, and I say this, as a fan, I want to come and watch enjoyable football. So we want to try and put on a show, and the players want to do that. So for me, is getting that fine balance, one, go and winning games, and then two, getting to a point where the players put in a performance that you want to come and see. So that's for me personally what we want to strive to be. That okay, we might not win every game, but as long as the players and the staff are showing a commitment and a work ethic that you supporters deserve.
very quickly on Sky, the new deal is going to be worth about 150 grand a year to us in central funding, which is useful. Obviously, if the Premier League do a deal, that'll all get pulled together and it'll be a much more significant number. What does it mean for us in terms of being on TV? iFollow is going to move to Sky, by the sounds of it, by what we've been shown. So even though you're on Sky, you're on an app in Sky, so domestic iFollow will all run through there. I don't know the mechanics of, do you have to be a Sky subscriber or can you pay per game? We've not come out with that yet, but that's the theory. It's basically moving iFollow on there. So we'll lose 40 grand a year iFollow income, but we'll make 150 in central funding. Some clubs probably make 200, like Wrexham, probably make 250 grand a year in iFollow that they'll actually lose out on. So for us, it's a net gain. I think there's a commitment around having maybe 3 games a season on Sky proper. So that'll be Salford, Wrexham and Chesterfield if they come up, no doubt, away. So that's it. The mechanics for us means financially it's beneficial to us. It doesn't change the world, it doesn't move us into profitability, but it's a good deal. It just depends on how you can then access them games, which I think is details still to be confirmed.
Yeah, just on that, Ben's right. There's been a commitment now and going forward that they will show so many games per each division. They won't commit to any particular team. So if you've got somebody working for Sky for you, like Salford, you have a good chance of being on the TV. So unfortunately, they don't like coming to Morecambe very often. We tend to get on the TV with cup runs, things like that, which gives us extra revenue. There is a bit more money for the home side and the away side when you are on the TV. But as Ben said, there is an uplift in income, and if you are there or thereabouts at the end of the season, then you've got a better chance of being on the TV.
So this is there's 2 questions here, but firstly to the board. I think when we talk about the march, it's been brought up tonight. You've been quite honest in your situation with the ownership. But I think the march has kind of come about because there's been kind of that radio silence from the owner. And you I've heard before where it's been, you can't really say too much. And I think you were feeling that you weren't getting much from the owner too. But now it seems like you've got a pathway in with Jason. What does that look like going forward? Can he not give the message to you? Why can't he come out to us, the fans, and say that he wants to sell the club, he wants to see this club going forward? So just kind of what you see on the output of that. And secondly, to the guys, how do you see tomorrow working? Because you're there in the stands. I'm sure you'll be welcome behind the goal tomorrow if you can't get in. But what do you see? How does that work for tomorrow?
On the Jason thing, there's always been a path. As you said, it's been difficult to communicate facts and figures to everybody because of legal restraints. I was, as the guys know, was piggy in the middle between the board and Jason for quite some time, and that has definitely opened up and has meant I'm hanging on to some of my hair now. It is, yeah. So as far as Jason coming out and saying something, he's not going to come to football match. He rarely comes. He's not going to. He does want to sell the football club. I can assure you of that. There's no doubt about it. I don't see what else can change about that situation. Fans have put pressure on him through social media, and it's the right thing to do. They've done it in a dignified and sensible fashion. Some people, I must admit, haven't done so, and it's unacceptable and not really the Morecambe way. I know from speaking to Jason that his daughter and his wife have been targeted by Morecambe fans directly, and that's not correct, because none of us would want our wives and partners and children attacked in such a way. He's big enough and ugly enough to stand up for himself, but his family are not, and that's not right. So, yeah, we continue to put pressure on, you continue to put pressure on, but I'm sorry, he's not going to come up here and say anything different.
We'd love him to be sat here tonight, wouldn't we? We all would, but it's not going to happen. So we always talk about control the controllables, and all I can assure everyone in this room is, we've got 3 chaps here who are lifelong fans. I've come into it as an employee, but sort of fallen in love with the club as you do when you get embedded in it. We're trying everything we can. We will do everything we can, and we'll be as open and straight with you as is the case. Often when we don't say anything, it's because there's nothing to say, and it's unbelievable sometimes. 3 months have gone by and there's nothing to say. We feel the same. It's glacial, the progress in this sale, but like I said, the last 2 months has given us some hope, and we now understand a lot more, and we've shared that with you tonight, and that's why we wanted to call it a forum and share it, because sometimes chatting about it's easier than putting it in words. You can only say so much and people can read it a different way, whereas when we can all just have a conversation, it's a bit easier. But one thing I promise you is we all want the same thing as you, and we're doing everything we can. At times maybe risking my employment, but sometimes it's the right thing to do.
Once again, Ben, I can only endorse the words that you and Graham have mentioned there. I have no doubt in my mind that Jason wants to be rid of the club, and the sooner the better for all of us, and then we move on. It has been a very difficult 18 months, very frustrating at times, and as you just said then, Ben, when there's nothing to say, what do you want us to do? That may be extremely frustrating, I get that, but we're not going to make things up.
So we're going on to tomorrow's game. It's going to be really tough. We understand, obviously, but we've worked on it all week anyway, how we want to play tomorrow and the plans on tomorrow's game. So I'm going to try my best not to pester Fitzy and Big Baz. I'm going to go in before the game, half time, and at the end of the game, hopefully leave them to it to deal with the rest. I'm sure it won't happen like that, but I'll try my best.
No, I think we had a discussion about getting a load of masks so he could sneak on the bench, and otherwise, I've said I'll be turning my phone off, and so he can't mind that it's going to be stressful for him and whoever else is surrounding him. So if you want to drag him into behind the goal, it'll be quite helpful for everybody else for that 9 minutes. No, but like we say, we work on the plan all week. The players know, and sometimes, although we try and affect it as much as we can from the sideline and put some plans into place, there will be communication between us as and when needed to make any changes we need to. Hopefully we won't need. We can have a quick fire first half and get a couple of goals up, and everyone can have a nice day. It doesn't always turn out like that, yeah.
Okay, we'll look at the last couple of questions now. So that gentleman at the back there, Matt, and then Paul will come to the front.
No awkward ones, Quinn. There's been no awkward ones yet.
Yeah, right.
Good evening. This is for the board. As well as the situation with the players and everything like that, I think everybody understands that. But we've also had a little bit of a merry-go-round on the manager's side of the last 3 years. People coming. And Jed and his team are in for another year after the end of the season. Has there been any thoughts about, it seems like you like him a lot and you think he's doing a great job. Have you thought about extending his contract? Good question.
Do you know him, Jess?
No. No, seriously. Look over the past, I don't know, 30 years, how many managers have we had? We've only sacked one manager in that time. Incredible up to now. I mean, I don't think there's another football club in the top echelons of the game in this country that has that sort of record. So we are loyal to managers, and I and my colleagues, we'd be absolutely delighted to be offering Ged and Fitz extensions of contract. It's early days yet, but honestly, when Ged came to me that day and said, should I put in for it? What did I say? I said, oh, don't bother, didn't I? And it's a no-brainer. He lives and breathes it. He's great to have around. And this is just, blowing smoke. It's a fact. They have brought a breath of fresh air. And that is energising in itself, seriously. So if all goes well, hey, happy days for everybody.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Brannan. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, just referring back to the wages payments and such, there was a slight thing just a short while ago where it was sort of being considered by the Football League and the authorities, and there was mutterings of points deductions and stuff like that, you know, all of which hopefully to be avoided. Is there any possible update on that?
Yeah, very good question. Where are we at? We got charged by the EFL in November with what did we get charged with? Breaching the agreed decision, but we had to enter after not paying the wages on time earlier in the year. Our stance is we haven't breached that. Their stance is you have. So we've taken it to a disciplinary commission. I've spent a lot of time working with legals on our case that's been presented. I can't, I don't want to sit here and say I can't say too much, but I can't because it's an ongoing matter due to be determined middle of March. So I'll end up spending a couple of days on a commission hearing and putting forward our case. And that's where we're at, and it'll be what it'll be. And we've, as with everything tonight, we've done our best, and we will do our best. And that's not been defeatist. Anything can happen. We really believe in our case. We know whose responsibility it is. Wouldn't it have been easier if we'd have just paid the wages on time in March, and we'd have avoided all of this? But you can't go back in time. So still ongoing. It hasn't gone anywhere. It'll be mid-March by the time it's determined. We've put together a really robust and I feel strong case as to why that shouldn't lead to any sort of points deduction or sanction. And yeah, that's where it's at. We'll share more. Nothing will happen publicly before that hearing now in March, and we'll share the outcome. But we know how important it is to keep hold of every point we earn. And the joy at the moment is because we're looking up and not down. But it's equally important to us. We're an ambitious club. We know our means and we know our financial resource, but that doesn't stop us genuinely believing that we can go and do it this year.
Okay, any more? Okay, got Paul, and then this chap again here, and then we'll look to call it night.
2 questions for Ged. First question is, can you tell us how the players that are injured getting on? And the second question is, who is the hardest team in League 2 at the minute?
On the injury front, we've still got Stuart, the goalkeeper. He's still out injured. He'll probably be the last month of the season. Donald Love, maybe the last 2 weeks of the season, possibly. JJ will be back in running in 2 weeks' time, so hopefully we'll get him back in 5 weeks. Apart from that, the rest are all niggles. And the hardest team in the league at the minute? Well, the hardest team I played against is Notts County, obviously. We went to Notts County, we never performed, and they got outstanding. Since then, I don't think they've won a game. But no, I'd say Stockport are the strongest team, even though they're on a little blip at the minute. I think they'll come back strong, and I think they'll go on to win the league, to be honest.
Last one then. Last one.
Make it long. Just a quick one for Ged, who's apparently sat there all night for the second half, not had much to say. Going back to your day at Wembley with Morecambe, can I ask, the Exeter sending off when Craig Stanley went down under a headbutt, did he feign injury?
I actually think he did, to be honest. Yeah, I think he did. Obviously, at the time you do anything to win, and that was a fantastic day. And funny enough, I've just been in Rod's Hotel there in Fitzy, and the goals have just come on the telly. And we saw him out maybe, it's Danny Carlton, Danny's goal, it was fantastic. But I think standards did, yeah, I think he actually went down.
There was no contact.
He was on contact, but it doesn't matter. We went on to win the game, who cares?
Is there one question, if Jason was here tonight, one question that you would want to ask him directly? Think about it, just one question.
Are you asking me?
Anybody. Anybody at all. One question.
How much would you accept for the club?
Well, he could answer that if he was there.
Sorry? Sorry?
How much would you accept for the club?
Can't discuss it.
Thank you, Mr. Mannering. Anyway, can I just say thank you to everyone who's come tonight? I think the show of force is tremendous, the amount of people here, so thank you all so much for coming. Thanks for your questions. And thank these guys as well for, they're all fans, they're all involved, they've all been involved with the club, they all want the club to do well, so I think we had a great combination of honesty tonight from everybody. Thank you very much.
I'll just echo that very quickly before everyone leaves. Just to repeat what Quinny said, we haven't done this in too long, and we acknowledge that, and we will make that right, and we will get in the room with everyone on a more consistent basis. I want to do a few more of these, probably quarterly, and it won't be for Board and Jed every time, because I don't think it needs to be. We might get some people like Stuart Glover from the community who we've talked about, or Martin, or Jody, or Les from the former players, and let's tell you about all sorts that's going on at the club, because we've got some amazing things going on. We try our best to get out there and share the news sometimes. Sometimes we either miss the mark or we have so much going out that it gets lost in everything. So some amazing things going on at this club, not least due to the buy-in and support from you home and away, which we truly appreciate. Let's make this last 3 months of the season something special once again. We can do. We need you behind us. We know you will be. And we really appreciate you. And thank you for coming tonight.